I was sitting there, on one of those uncomfortable green plastic chairs in the doctor's waiting room, when my phone rang. It was my only daughter, Angela. My heart should have lifted, but her voice, it was strange, cold, as she delivered the sentence, "Mom, we're going to Europe tomorrow. I've already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money, bye," and just like that, she hung up. 45 years. 45 years of raising her, sacrificing everything for her, and she discarded me like a piece of used furniture, like garbage. But I took a deep breath, and I smiled. My name is Antonia Brooks, and I am 71 years old. Until that very moment, I thought I knew my daughter. I'd been a widow for only 6 months. My husband, Robert, had passed away a heart attack right there at breakfast, just as we had done every morning for 45 years. That morning, he served my coffee with cream and toast. He kissed my forehead, those last, gentle words, "Good morning, my love." Since then, Angela had been more present. Or so I believed. She visited 3 times a week. She helped with the funeral, the groceries. She even pushed me to see a doctor for a checkup. "Mom, you need to take better care of yourself now that you're alone," she'd say, with that smile I mistook for love. Now I understood it was a smile of pure convenience. The beach house was our sanctuary. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, with so much hard work. Every summer birthdays, Christmases, it was our family tradition. I cooked, I cleaned. I never imagined she'd see it as just money. And the car. Robert's old Ford pickup truck. He loved it like a child. Its scent still lingered on the seats. It was the last thing I had left of him. When she hung up, I stayed there, surrounded by other sick people. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry. A deep, strange calm washed over me, because I remembered something I had completely forgotten. 3 days before he died, Robert had handed me a manila envelope. "Antonia, put this in the drawer of your dresser. If something happens to me, open it after a while, but only when you feel ready." I had simply forgotten. But there it was, waiting for me at home. The nurse called my name. The doctor said I was in good health for my age, just needed more rest. I nodded and smiled, but my mind was already racing. I was thinking of the envelope, the coldness in Angela's voice, and how Edward, her husband, was probably behind all of it. He had always seen me as a nuisance. I walked slowly to the bus stop. I no longer had a car, according to Angela. But as I waited, I couldn't stop smiling. There was something poetic about all of this. My daughter thought she had left me with absolutely nothing. But she didn't know that my dear Robert was always a man who planned ahead. The bus arrived. I sat by the window and watched the world rush by. Houses, stores, people all with their own secrets. I had my own now, too, and I was about to discover them. I got home, went straight to my room, and opened the dresser drawer. There it was, the manila envelope, exactly where I'd left it. My hands barely trembled as I picked it up. I could feel the documents inside. Robert had written my name on the front in his neat, familiar handwriting. I sat on the bed we had shared for so many years and took a deep breath. It was starting to get dark, the house filling with those shadows that no longer scared me. I opened the envelope slowly, like unwrapping a birthday gift. What I found inside, it simply took my breath away. There were legal documents, deeds, bank certificates, and a letter, a precious, handwritten letter from Robert. My eyes welled up as I read his words. "My dear Antonia, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I was alive, but I wanted to protect you from worries. Over the years, I invested our savings in properties and businesses. We don't just have the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward live. We also have shares in 3 companies that are worth more than you can imagine. You are rich, my love. You always were rich, but now you are on paper, too." My hands shook as I looked through the papers. Deeds to houses in different neighborhoods, a downtown condo, a small motel on the coast, and yes, the 20-story apartment building my daughter called home. Robert had been the silent owner for the past 10 years, but he had put everything in the name of a company. And according to the documents, I was the sole heiress of that company. There were bank statements for accounts I never knew existed, with numbers that seemed unreal. Robert was a bus driver for 40 years, but he was also an incredibly smart investor. Every penny we saved, every sacrifice we made, he had multiplied in silence. I never knew anything. In his letter, he explained that he kept it all a secret because he didn't want me to worry about money. And this hit me hard, he didn't want Angela to know about our true financial situation. You know, our daughter, Antonia, if she knew we had so much money, her attitude would change. I want her to love us for who we are, not what we have. What painful irony. My daughter had abandoned me thinking we had nothing, when in reality, we had everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked around the house, touching the old furniture Angela had always criticized as outdated. I looked at the family photos, especially the one where she was 5, sitting on Robert's lap, laughing. Where had that sweet little girl gone? When did she become so cold, so calculating? The phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice was different this time, soft, a little too saccharine, but I had already learned to be wary of her changes in tone. Mom, how are you? I wanted to tell you we already transferred the money from the house and the car. We deposited your share into your account. It's not much, but it'll help you live for a few months while you look for something smaller. My share? I asked, keeping my voice perfectly calm. Yes, Mom, we obviously weren't going to leave you with nothing. We gave you 30%. That's fair, right? We need the money for our investment in Europe. Edward has an incredible business opportunity over there, 30% of my own things. How generous, I see, honey. And when do you leave? This afternoon. Our bags are already packed. We'll be gone for at least 6 months. But don't worry, Mom. When we get back, we'll help you find a small apartment. Something that fits your needs, fits my needs. As if she had any idea what my needs were. Okay, Angela. Have a safe trip. Oh, Mom, I knew you'd understand. You've always been so compassionate. We love you so much. And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time in months, I laughed. A full, rolling laugh. The situation was so absurd, so utterly comical. My daughter had robbed me, kicked me out of my house, spoken to me with unbearable condescension, all to fund a disastrous European adventure. What truly hurt wasn't the money. It was the ease with which she had discarded me. 45 years erased in a 2-minute phone call. I checked my bank account online. Sure enough, they'd deposited a sum that was a genuine mockery. They had sold the beach house and Robert's old truck for a pittance, likely needing quick cash. That afternoon, I watched from my window as Angela and Edward loaded their suitcases into a cab. He had 2 enormous ones. She had a very expensive-looking carry-on. They looked like giddy teenagers. They never looked toward my window. They never said goodbye. When the cab drove away, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and Robert's documents spread out. I had to make a decision. I could call a lawyer, reclaim everything, and sue them. But something told me there was a better, more educational way. I called Mr. Peterson, the lawyer who handled Robert's affairs. Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you. How are you? I'm doing well, Mr. Peterson, but I need to see you urgently. I found some documents from Robert that I don't quite understand, of course. Come to my office tomorrow morning. That night, I slept soundly. I dreamed of Robert. He smiled and said, "It's about time, my love. It's about time you stood up for yourself." I woke up with a feeling of pure determination. I got dressed with more care than usual. I put on my wine-colored dress, the one Robert always said made me look elegant. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't seen in a long time. I saw a strong woman. Peterson's office was downtown, elegant and old. He greeted me warmly, but when I showed him Robert's documents, his face went completely blank. Mrs. Brooks, this is much more than I imagined. Robert was a very smart man. According to these papers, you are the owner of... I know. Mr. Peterson, I need to know what I can do legally. He confirmed it all. The documents were legitimate, and I was the rightful owner of all those properties. Crucially, he confirmed my suspicion. The sale of the beach house was illegal because my daughter, Angela, had no right to sell it. We can get the house back immediately, Mrs. Brooks, and we can also proceed with legal action against your daughter for fraud. No, Mr. Peterson, I don't want legal action. I want to do this another way. I want everything to remain a secret for now. Can you help me? He looked at me with curiosity, but he nodded. Of course, you are my client. What do you need? I need you to discreetly get the beach house back, nullify that fraudulent sale. And I need you to help me gain real control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives. I understand. It will take a few weeks, but it's completely feasible. Perfect. And Mr. Peterson, no one can know I am behind all of this. Not yet. When I left his office, I felt as if I had woken up from a very long dream. I had a plan. The following weeks were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow, abandoned by her daughter. But in secret, I was a rich woman, silently orchestrating the recovery of my assets. I stayed in my house, every morning going through the motions. The neighbors would greet me with that familiar mix of pity and curiosity. My lifelong neighbor, Aurora, approached me one afternoon. Antonia, dear, is it true that Angela went to Europe and left you all alone? Yes, Aurora. They have business plans over there, and how are you going to live, sweetie? We all know Robert didn't leave much money. If you only knew, I thought. Don't worry, Aurora. I'll be fine. These conversations were constant with the butcher, the baker, the lady at the corner store. Everyone spoke to me with that soft tone they use for the unfortunate. But inside, I enjoyed the performance. I was living a double life. Then Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, I have good news. I was able to nullify the sale of the beach house. The house is yours again. Excellent. And the building where Angela lives. That one is more complicated. You've always been the owner through the company, but we need another 2 weeks for you to have direct control. I hung up, thinking of Angela. 3 weeks in Europe, and not a single call. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she got the money. But I knew that was going to change very soon. I decided to visit the beach house. I took the bus to the coast, the same route Robert and I had taken countless times. The house was exactly as I remembered it, small, cream-coloured, with a porch overlooking the ocean. The new owners had added a few potted plants, but otherwise everything was the same. I sat on the curb across the street and just looked at it for an hour. I remembered Angela running on the beach, Robert grilling fish. All those happy moments she had reduced to a simple commercial transaction. An older gentleman came out of the house. He saw me and approached with curiosity. Are you okay, ma'am? Yes, thank you. I'm just remembering. I knew the former owners. Yes, I knew them very well. What a shame about what happened. They told us the elderly lady was very sick and needed to sell fast. We thought it was a steal, but it turns out the sale wasn't legal. We had to give the house back. The elderly lady was very sick. Angela hadn't just sold my home. She had lied about me. She had made up a story about my illness, using my supposed vulnerability to justify her actions. To her, I wasn't a person with feelings, but an obstacle that had to be removed. I left there with a heavy heart. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was the ease of the lie. That night, I called Mr. Peterson again. Mr. Peterson, I need you to help me with something else. I want to get Robert's truck back, too. That will be more difficult, Mrs. Brooks. The truck was in your name, but your daughter had a power of attorney that allowed her to sell it. How is that possible? Apparently, you signed that power of attorney a few months ago after your husband's death. Don't you remember? There it was, the moment Angela had started planning all of this. I vaguely remembered signing some papers she'd brought, telling me they were to facilitate the funeral arrangements. I was so confused by grief that I had signed without reading. How devastatingly naive I had been. I understand, Mr. Peterson. Is there any way to get it back? We can try, but it will be complicated. We'd need to prove that you signed that power of attorney under deception or coercion. Let's do it. I want back everything they took from me. Over the next few weeks, my strange routine continued. Mornings were for keeping up appearances as the poor widow, but afternoons I became a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, talked to Mr. Peterson, and planned my next move. I learned that Edward, Angela's husband, was drowning in debt. He had taken out loans using the apartment they lived in as collateral, not knowing he wasn't the real owner. When the banks figured this out, he was going to be in serious trouble. One Friday, Mr. Peterson called me with important news. Mrs. Brooks, we've finished all the paperwork. You now have total control of all your properties. And I got Robert's truck back too. The buyer was an acquaintance of mine. When I explained the situation, he agreed to return it. Excellent work, Mr. Peterson. Now, I need you to help me with one more thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter. What kind of letter? An eviction notice. There was silence on the other end. Mrs. Brooks, are you sure you want to do this? She is your daughter, after all, completely sure. She decided I wasn't important in her life. Now she's going to find out how important I really am. I understand. Do you want me to send it to Europe? No, I want you to give it to her when she gets back. I have a feeling it's going to be very soon. I wasn't wrong. That very afternoon, Aurora, my neighbor, came running to my house with fresh neighborhood news. Antonia, did you know that Edward is in trouble with the bank? They're investigating some loans he took out using the apartment they live in as collateral, but it turns out the apartment isn't his. Read. Yes, and it seems Angela didn't know anything. They're saying she's going to have to come back from Europe to sort out this mess. The worst part is Edward apparently lied to her about the business in Europe. There was no business. He just wanted to escape the debts he had here. Perfect. Everything was working out exactly as I had expected. Angela had sacrificed her relationship with me for a worthless man, and now she was discovering his true nature. That night, I sat on the porch. Robert used to say the stars were the souls of people who had lived a full life, watching over their families. Thank you, my love, I whispered to the sky. Thank you for taking care of me even after your death. The next day, Mr. Peterson called early. Mrs. Brooks, your daughter just arrived in the country. She's at the airport. Alone. Yes, apparently, Edward stayed in Europe. There are rumors they had a very big fight. I see. Did you send the letter? I'm sending it today. She should receive it tomorrow. I stood in the kitchen, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. After weeks of silent planning, the moment for the first real move had finally arrived. Angela was about to discover that her mother was not the defenseless victim she believed.
Section 7. The Desperate Plea. Angela arrived at her apartment on Tuesday night. I knew this because Aurora, who seemed to have informants everywhere, came to tell me the very next day. Antonia, your daughter came back last night. She had one suitcase, but she looked terrible, pale, with dark circles, as if she'd been crying the whole flight. And something strange, when the doorman asked her for the keys, she didn't have them. She had to ask the superintendent for the emergency copy. Edward had the keys. He had likely decided not to come back. In any case, my daughter was back, broken, and she was about to receive my little welcome gift. Mr. Peterson called me that afternoon. Mrs. Brooks, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The doorman confirmed your daughter received it in person. Perfect. How long did we give her? 30 days to vacate the apartment, as per legal standards. That night, I stayed awake, imagining Angela's face when she read that letter. The confusion, the disbelief, then the sheer panic. She would think it was a mistake, a scam. But when she called to verify, she would discover that everything was completely legal. The next morning, as if she had been waiting for my call, the phone rang at 8. It was Angela, and her voice was desperate, raw. Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, honey. How was Europe? Mom, I don't have time for that. I received a very strange letter yesterday. It says I have to vacate my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything about this? An eviction notice. How strange. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. Robert Investments, Inc. Do you know this company? Robert had used his own name for the company. How utterly poetic. No, honey. I've never heard that name. Are you sure the letter is legitimate? That's what I want to find out. Mom, I need you to help me. I don't know what to do. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman, and now I come back to this. I don't understand what's happening. There was the confirmation. Edward had abandoned her. She had sacrificed her family for a worthless man. I'm so sorry, honey. Where are you now? I'm in the apartment, but I don't know for how long. Mom, can I come see you? I need to talk to someone. I don't have anyone else. The irony was perfect. She had abandoned me, and now that she was left with nothing, she remembered she had a mother. Of course, honey. Come over whenever you want. I'm on my way. I hung up, looked in the mirror, and practiced my expression, worried but resigned. When Angela arrived, she would see exactly what she expected, a poor, vulnerable widow who had been abandoned by her own daughter. The price of betrayal. Angela arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I was genuinely surprised at how bad she looked. She had lost weight, her eyes were red from crying, and her expensive clothes looked wrinkled. Mom, she managed, and for a moment I thought she would hug me. But she stopped, as if suddenly remembering how we had left things. Come in, honey. Do you want some coffee? We sat in the kitchen, at the very table where I had read Robert's documents weeks ago. Angela looked small in that chair, lost. Mom, I'm so sorry for the way I left. I know I didn't treat you well. It's in the past, honey. No, it's not. I treated you horribly. I said awful things, and now, her voice broke. Now I have no one. What happened with Edward? I asked, maintaining the tone of a worried, sympathetic mother. He left with a 25-year-old hotel waitress in Paris. It turns out there was never any business in Europe. It was all a lie. He just wanted to escape the debts he had here and use the money from the sale of your house to fund his adventure. All the debts? Yes, Mom, so many debts. It seems he had been taking out loans for years, using the apartment we lived in as collateral. But now I find out he wasn't the owner. How is that possible? I seized the opening. I don't know, honey. Property matters are very complicated. The problem is, the banks are coming after me for his debts. They say since we were married, I'm responsible. And on top of that, this eviction notice. Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere to live. She started to cry, real tears of genuine desperation. My mother's heart ached. I wanted to hug her, to tell her the truth, to make it all stop. But then I remembered the coldness in her voice when she called me from the doctor's office. The way she had talked about finding me a small apartment. Did you talk to a lawyer about the letter? I don't have money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent all the money in Europe. Edward took what little was left when he ran off. So what are you going to do? I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while just until I find a job and can get a small place to live. There it was. The question I had been waiting for. After kicking me out of my own house, she now expected me to rescue her. She expected the poor widow she had created to save her. Of course, honey. This will always be your home. Angela looked at me, stunned that it was so easy. Really, Mom? After everything that happened? You are my daughter, Angela. That will never change. She got up and hugged me. It was a desperate, drowning hug. I hugged her back, but not with the unconditional love from before. There was calculation in this embrace. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that now. Rest, recover, and then we'll see what your options are. Angela left that afternoon to get her things. I stayed in the kitchen thinking. She had come to me exactly as planned, broken, desperate, with no options, and best of all, she suspected nothing. This was just the first part of my plan. Having her live with me gave me the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I was going to let her settle in, feel safe. And then, when she least expected it, I was going to teach her the difference between being poor by chance and being poor by consequence. Angela moved into my house the next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, all that was left of her previous life. Watching her unpack in her old childhood room, I could see the sheer humiliation in every movement. She had gone from a luxury condo to taking refuge in her old bedroom. "Mom, I found this in the apartment," she said, showing me a small manila envelope. It was among Edward's things. "It has your name on it, another one of Robert's envelopes." My heart sped up, but I kept my composure. My name? How strange. Maybe Edward found it among Dad's things when he died and forgot to give it to me, Angela suggested. It's possible. Can I see it? I opened the envelope right there. Inside was a short letter and a small key. The letter read, "Antonia, if you are reading this after having received the main envelope, it means our daughter is going through a difficult time. This key opens a safety deposit box at the Central Bank downtown branch. The number is 247. There is something there that can help you help her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert." Angela read the letter over my shoulder. A safety deposit box. Dad had a safety deposit box? I had no idea. I didn't either, I lied. Your father never told me about this. But Mom, maybe there's something important in there. Documents or, I don't know, maybe something valuable that can help us. The desperation in her voice was palpable. Angela was clinging to any possibility of finding a way out. "Okay," I said after a calculated pause. "We can go tomorrow." That night, Angela and I had dinner together. She cooked, trying to be useful, but the food tasted of guilt. She told me more details about Edward's betrayal. He lied about everything, Mom, not just the business, but the debts too. He owes over $100,000, and the worst part is he used my name for some of the loans without me knowing. He forged my signature. Do you have any way to prove you didn't know? I don't know. It's all so complicated. The banks say, since we were married, I'm responsible anyway. Edward had run away like the rat he was, leaving Angela to face the consequences alone. He had done me a favor. My daughter was experiencing exactly what I had felt when he abandoned me, betrayal by someone she had completely trusted. How could I have been so stupid? How did I not realize who he really was? She cried. Love can be blinding sometimes, honey. Don't blame yourself. But Mom, I didn't just ruin my life. I ruined yours too. I took your house, your truck, your things, and now we're 2 poor women trying to survive because of me. If she only knew, I thought. But it wasn't time yet. The next day we went to the bank. The employee led us to box number 247. Inside were jewels, rings, necklaces, bracelets. I recognized some heirlooms. Others were new. There was a note explaining the origin of each piece and its approximate value. Angela gasped. Mom, this must be worth a fortune. Dad saved a treasure here. The jewels were worth approximately $200,000. A significant amount, but nothing compared to the rest of my assets. It was like finding a few coins under the sofa when you had $1 million in the bank. What do we do with this, Mom? I don't know, honey. They're family memories. But Mom, we could sell some of the pieces. With this money, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay off some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even with a treasure, Angela's first thought was how to use it to solve the problems Edward had created. She hadn't learned a thing yet. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance to pay Edward's debts? What other option do I have, Mom? I can't get a job with all these legal claims pending. We took the jewels home. It was painful to watch her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for the jewels, she told me one afternoon. It's enough to pay off the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay something soon, they'll seize everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have some kind of legal connection. The irony was crushing. She was worried about losing a house that I owned. That night, while she was organizing the debt documents, Mr. Peterson called. "Mrs. Brooks, I have a full report on Edward's debts. The situation is worse than I thought. Over $200,000 to several banks. And he used falsified documents with your daughter's signature? That means Angela is legally responsible? It's complicated. If we can prove she didn't know, we might get her out of some debts, but it will be a long and expensive process. Maybe $50,000 for a good lawyer. Mr. Peterson, I want you to prepare all the necessary documents to get my daughter out of these debts. But don't tell her anything yet. You're going to pay Mrs. Brooks? I'm going to do whatever is necessary to protect my daughter, but this has to be handled in a very specific way." When I hung up, Angela was looking at the jewels sadly. "Mom, I want you to know something. I abandoned my mother for a man who turned out to be a liar. I sold my family's memories for money. I ruined everything he built." For the first time since her return, I heard a genuine moral regret in her voice. She was finally ready to face the truth about her actions and their consequences. But it wasn't yet time to reveal my final card. First, I had to let her hit rock bottom completely. The next few days were crucial for my plan. Angela decided to sell most of the jewels, keeping only the engagement ring Robert had given me and a small grandmother's necklace. I watched her negotiate prices. It was painful, but necessary, to see her reduce decades of family history to a commercial transaction. "Mom, I got $180,000 for the jewels," she told me, counting the bills on the kitchen table. "It's less than I expected, but it's enough to pay off the most urgent debts." She was so focused on paying the debts of a man who had abandoned her, with the money from the man who was silently watching over her. "How are you going to decide which debts to pay first?" I asked. I talked to a free financial advisor. She told me to prioritize the debts with collateral, the ones that can affect property or lead to immediate foreclosure. Angela was maturing. The woman who sold my things without asking was now carefully scrutinizing every financial decision. That night, Mr. Peterson called. "Mrs. Brooks, I have important news. We located Edward in Paris. He's trying to get French residency through a fake marriage. But most importantly, we found evidence that he deliberately falsified your daughter's documents with the intention of fleeing the country. That means Angela can get out of the debts. With this evidence, yes, we can prove fraud and coercion. Your daughter won't have to pay anything for what Edward did behind her back. It was perfect. I had a way to save Angela legally, without her suspecting I had the money. Mr. Peterson, I want you to start the legal process immediately, but don't tell my daughter anything yet. I want the process to be completely finished before I tell her." "Understood. This will take about 3 weeks, maybe a month." Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Angela struggle. How to stretch money for food. How to look for a job when your credit history is ruined. It was a cruel but necessary education. "Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today," she told me one evening, coming home exhausted. 2 of them told me they can't hire me because of the pending legal problems. The 3rd one offered me a part-time job cleaning offices at night. "Are you going to take it?" "I have no choice. It pays very little, but it's better than nothing, and I can work at night so I can keep looking for something better during the day." Seeing my daughter, who had lived a comfortable life for 40 years, preparing to clean offices at night, broke my heart. But it also filled me with pride. She was finally facing reality without expecting someone else to solve her problems. "I can't keep being a burden to you, Mom. This is your home, Angela. No, Mom, this is your home, and I'm here because of your generosity, but I'm not going to take advantage of it forever." One night, while Angela was on her first shift, Aurora came to visit. "Antonia, I've been watching Angela. She looks different, not just sad, but humble, as if she learned something important." "What do you think she learned?" "She learned the value of the things she had taken for granted, like having a mother who loves her unconditionally." She needs to respect you, not just need you. Aurora had hit the nail on the head. That night when Angela returned from work, I saw her arrive tired, but with a new dignity. She had earned those few dollars with her own effort. How was your first day? Hard, but not as bad as I thought. One of the ladies there, Mrs. Johnson, told me there are two types of people who end up doing this job. The ones who are there because they never had opportunities, and the ones who are there because they ruined the opportunities they did have. She asked me which group I was in. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I had all the opportunities in the world, and I ruined it all by following a worthless man. Angela poured herself water and sat with me. Mom, these past few weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. I finally understand what really matters. It's not money. It's having people who genuinely love you. I already forgave you, honey. But I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't until I prove that I've truly changed. She was finally ready. The process of redemption was complete. The next morning, Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, I have excellent news. We can get your daughter out of all of Edward's debts. It was time. It was finally time to show her the whole truth. Mr. Peterson arranged the meeting for Friday morning at his office. I told Angela I'd made an appointment with a lawyer who could help her with her legal problems, but I didn't explain the details. She was nervous about the cost. Mom, I don't have money to pay a lawyer. I barely have enough to cover basic expenses. Don't worry about that now, honey. Let's just hear what he has to say. We arrived on time. Angela was dressed in her best clothes, hands wringing nervously. She expected another piece of bad news. Mrs. Brooks. Miss Brooks, thank you for coming, Mr. Peterson said, greeting us with his professional smile. Thank you for seeing us, Angela replied, adding a nervous warning. But I should warn you, my financial situation is very complicated. That's exactly what we're going to talk about, Mr. Peterson said, exchanging a look with me. But first, I need you to review these documents. He handed Angela a thick folder. She opened it and began to read, her expression shifting instantly from confusion to total surprise. I don't understand. These documents say that Edward forged my signature, that there is evidence of fraud, that I am not responsible for the debts. That's right, Miss Brooks. We have been investigating your case for the past few weeks. We found enough evidence to prove you were a victim of identity fraud. But how is that possible? Who paid for this investigation? I don't have money for this. Mr. Peterson looked at me. It was my moment. Angela, there's something I need to tell you. What, Mom? I took a deep breath. Your father left me more than you knew. Much more. What do you mean? Mr. Peterson, show her the other documents. Mr. Peterson handed her a second folder. This time it contained the deeds, the bank statements, the investment certificates, the entire fortune Robert had built in secret. Angela read in silence for several minutes. Her face cycled through confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, comprehension. Mom. This says you are the owner of the building where I lived. Yes. And that you have other properties, bank accounts, investments? Yes. This means that when I sold the beach house, it was my house. And the sale was fraudulent. I already got it back. Angela stared at the papers, trying to process it all. How long have you known this? Since the day you called me from the doctor's office. You knew all this when I came back from Europe asking for help? Yes. You knew you could solve all my problems when you saw me crying every night? Yes. A long, heavy silence filled the room. Angela closed the folders and looked directly into my eyes. Why, Mom? Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped me? This was the question. I met her gaze evenly. Because you needed to learn something you couldn't learn any other way. What? You needed to learn the value of the things you had lost. The value of family, of respect, of responsibility. When you abandoned me, it wasn't just money you took. It was dignity. It was love. It was trust. Angela started to cry, but these were not tears of self-pity. They were tears of deep, clear understanding. I abandoned you when you needed me most. And you saved me anyway. Yes, but not in the way you expected. I didn't save you by giving you money so you could keep making the same mistakes. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom so you could learn to save yourself. Mr. Peterson interjected to confirm. Miss Brooks, your mother has paid all the legal expenses to free you from Edward's debts. You are completely free of legal problems. And the cleaning job I got? She whispered. You can quit if you want, I said. But I hope you don't. That job taught you the value of your own effort, the dignity of honest work. Angela wiped her tears and looked at me with an expression of pure adult respect. Do you forgive me, Mom? I forgave you a long time ago, honey. The question is, can you forgive yourself? I don't know if I can. I did unforgivable things. People make mistakes, Angela. The important thing is what we do after we recognize those mistakes. We left Mr. Peterson's office with a completely new relationship. Over the next 6 months, Angela kept her job and went back to school to study social work. She decided to use the foundation I established to help other women in situations of financial abandonment. Using her experience for good, one night, she told me, "True love isn't the one that tells you what you want to hear. True love is the one that teaches you what you need to learn, even when it hurts." 6 months after the revelation, we visited the beach house together. "Mom," Angela said, looking at the ocean, "I want us to turn this house into a temporary shelter for women who are leaving situations of domestic violence. A place where they can rebuild their lives." It was the perfect proposal. I think that's a beautiful idea. "Honey," I said, putting my arm around her, we had both gained something much more valuable than money. We had gained an authentic relationship built on a solid foundation. Justice had arrived not as revenge, but as transformation. That night, before falling asleep, I spoke to Robert in silence. We did it, my love. Our daughter finally understood what truly matters. And I felt his answer, quiet and sure. I always knew you would. You're both stronger than you think. And so, Antonia and Angela began a new chapter, one built on respect, love, and hard-earned dignity. Antonia used her wisdom for teaching, not revenge, and Angela transformed her heartbreak into a passion for helping others. But what about you? If you were in Antonia's place, would you have taken such a long and painful road to teach your daughter a lesson, or would you have revealed the truth immediately? And for Angela, what do you think is the most important lesson she learned? Can she truly earn back her mother's trust and love forever? We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below what advice you would give Antonia or Angela in this situation. Your insights might just guide them on their next journey. Comment, send a super thanks to support more stories, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next life story.